If you're just watching here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, this is former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, Jim Santel, who's been so kind with the time this week, breaking down both sides of this argument here. I'd be curious, Jim, we're getting to the end here, right? We're seeing the rebuttal. After that, it will be jury instructions, and then it will be up to those 13 people, 12 ultimately deciding the fate of Judge Hannah Dugan. You spoke to the different attorneys and how you play out every possible scenario throughout the prep for the trial, during the week of the trial, maybe even last night into this morning during that final break. When it ends, when it goes to the jury, how often did you have a pretty good idea about which way they were going to come back? And how often is it, we did our job, who knows where it goes from here?
Right. We always say that when, again, defense counsel does it. We used to do it all the time. We are done. There's a certain just sense of relief because it is a high pressure matter, right? I've said this before. This is the single most significant thing a government can do, which is threaten your liberty by charging with a federal offense or a state offense. And when you go back, there is not a certain sense of relaxation, but you are completed. And to your very good point, Carl, there is a sense of, okay, we all do our things. We all do our roles. The judge does something, you do something, the witnesses do something. It's out of my hands now. And the jury now has to deliberate on it. So there's a certain relief from all of that going forward. Even at the same time, when you walk back from down that third floor there and you go over to the U.S. Attorney's office, which is on the opposite side of the building, same floor, right over there, actually up on the fifth floor rather than the third floor. Got to go up some stairs there. But the reality is that you usually have some fairly good sense about how the witnesses played out. If they have not done well and you think that the case is really very tenuous, you've got a pretty good feel for that. If they have done well, and this applies to the defense as well, if you think you presented a strong case, you know it. And that's not being arrogant as lawyers. It's just knowing the courtroom. Having said that, the final observation I will make is that I have had circumstances where, again, you think the case is strong and the jury is out for 2 and 3 days and they come back hung, or they come back with a decision of finding the defendant not guilty. Again, it is an unpredictable process. And I always would tell both younger attorneys and even colleagues who are my age and older that this notion that you're quite certain we're going to get a verdict in this direction is simply predicting when you really don't know. All kinds of things can and do happen in that jury room. As we talked about before, we've got no eyes on what that is all about and who is taking the lead in arguments and who is the principal voice. And so it is unpredictable. And I will say that about this verdict as well. Anybody who tells you right now that they know what this jury is going to return and how strong or how weak a case is does not, with due respect, know what they're talking about. We'll wait to hear from the jury.
That kind of puts a little damper on the next question.
Because I just whispered to Brian, I was going to ask you to tell us which way are you leaning? What do you think it comes back on? But maybe you just answered that.
All right. I'll perhaps when we get together with our spouses and talk about being lawyers and those kinds of things, and the things we say around the breakfast table, then we can go back and recreate history. But again, I have never ever predicted and would certainly not do that. In this case, again, the other thing to note, this is not, and I don't mean in any way to diminish the significance of other trials in this one, this is not a case where you've got a bank robber who's on tape and you've got the money, or a drug case or a gun case where you've got the guns and you can show them and you've got. This is a matter where the attorneys are arguing about what was in Hannah Dugan's mind.
I was going to ask about that because I think that's the toughest case to prove is intent.
Right?
You've got to get inside someone's mind.
Right. Much easier to say, well, Mr. Santel, when you came out of the bank with your mask on and a bag full of money and a gun in your hand, we really pretty much can impute your intent fairly clearly. You intended to rob that bank and you did. This is not that case. You've got to be able to argue, again, as they are, from common sense, which is the instruction, your basic sense of how life works. You've got to, frankly, here's the other piece we talked about a little bit. Those jurors have been sitting there, and I know your staff has as well. We have not been. They're looking around the courtroom. They're watching Hannah Dugan as she responds to witnesses. The witnesses, they're watching them and their demeanor. Big things, small things get thrown into the mix here as they determine this ultimate issue about intent and what the purpose was. And again, we'll get some hints of that if in fact they say, gee, we'd like some testimony reread, which they could do about from the judges, maybe from the initial agents. If you get that, you'll get some idea about maybe where they're going or what things they're talking about. But even there, I'll once again frustrate both of you and say, I've gotten questions in trials and you think, oh my goodness, they're focusing on the wrong thing, the right thing. And it comes back in just the opposite way. Why? Because juries do their jobs. And they may, in fact, you may have a jury that goes, because they know the significance of this, they may be going through all the jury instructions. We'll look at the elements of the offense. We want to make certain we have a checkbox. Who agrees that the government has proven these points? You can get a very methodical juror and a set of jurors who want to do this by the book and who are not going to simply vote right away and have a lot of discussion. You may get a jury that says, is anybody viewing this in any other different way? And you could get a very quick verdict. Unpredictable once again.
All right. Jim Santel, former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. We really want to thank you for your time you spent with us all week long. And